Hey, everybody, this is another edition of the DMZ America podcast. Yes, we're doing it yet again. It is October 6th, 2023. That would be a Friday. Yeah, we just keep them on their toes. I'm coming to you from the right. I'm editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis.
And coming to you from the left, I am editorial cartoonist Ted Rall. And I'm in San Francisco attending the annual convention of the Association of American Editorial Cartoonists. And so among the many great cartoonists who are here, who are, of course, friends of ours, is our colleague, Jack Ohman, seated to my right and presumably to your left, if you're on the other side of the screen looking in. Jack Ohman has been the staff editorial cartoonist at a number of newspapers. In most recent years, the Oregonian in Portland, Oregon, for what, 20 plus years, right?
28 years.
28 years, nearly 30. And then went on to the Sacramento Bee, where you were how long?
10.
And then at the, and now you're at the San Francisco Chronicle.
As a contributing columnist.
So yes, so Jack is, and Pulitzer Prize winner?
2016.
Okay. All sorts of accolades and kudos, and richly deserved. So
you forgot the most important one. He's currently the president of the American Association of Editorial Cartoonists.
That's right. So he is hosting this confab.
Yes.
Or
yes.
co-hosting, maybe? I don't know. Scott.
You could be out here, baby.
Yeah, you don't understand my life at the moment. We're having a baby shower that had to be postponed because the expectant mother and father came down with COVID. So it got delayed a couple of weeks. So this actually worked out pretty well. So we're going to have 70 people. It's going to be the biggest fucking shower in the history of the Southeast.
So you're stimulating the economy. You're participating in Bidenomics.
In Alabama. It's easy to stimulate the economy in Alabama.
It is. Yeah, you buy a 6-pack, you pretty much
triple their state GDP.
Yeah, buy a 12-pack. Yeah, I just state GDP. Yeah, like there is some. Anyway, so there's some news coming out of the Congress this week, obviously. Matt Gaetz of Florida?
Florida
issued and vacated the seat of then Speaker Kevin McCarthy. And now it's empty. And now the fight goes on. And they were talking. I was listening to your show this morning, Ted, and your co-host, who is on Sputnik, who is a MAGA person, was genuinely getting excited about the prospect of Speaker Trump.
Right. Yeah.
And you didn't jump in. How did you not jump in? I think the hangover was still throbbing because you just sort of sat there.
The hangover was bad this morning. Bear in mind the time difference too. The show airs from 10 a.m. until 12 noon Eastern. So 7 a.m. had to get up at about 5:30. It was brutal. I didn't go to sleep late, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I talked to her about how outlandish that yesterday, about how outlandish the idea that Trump, of all people, would want to or be able to perform this function. Legally, he could perform it.
Actually, they said this morning.
Oh, yeah, maybe not.
Because the caucus rule is that a felon cannot serve in a leadership position.
Or prospective felon. So anyone who's indicted. But the thing is, I guess it's a caucus rule that they could just vote to change it, to let him in. But I mean, I don't know that he would want to do it. There's no reason for it. There's never, as Scott, student of history, there's no outsider, non-member of the House has ever served as Speaker, even though it's presumably allowed under the Constitution. It just doesn't, it seems like if the House wants to restore regular order, that would not be the path to take.
No, and he's not. Yeah, hate to pick on your co-host, but she kept saying this. She's not alone. She's carping what they're saying across conservative and MAGA land, is that he would bring the House together. Jack, I'm not kidding. She said Donald Trump would bring people together. When in the name of God has he ever brought people together?
He's a uniter, not a divider.
And this is the guy from the right.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
I've always been happily a never Trump Republican. So
God bless you.
Yeah, they sort of lost their
So the two top candidates are Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise. Is there anyone else that we're ignoring here? Trump has endorsed Jim Jordan. Does that make a difference? Is Trump a kingmaker in this respect?
Well, here's what's interesting. When you look at the votes and the Republicans who voted to vacate the seat, a lot of the Freedom Caucus did not vote. I think they like Margaret Taylor Greene.
Marjorie.
Marjorie. I mean, she didn't vote. Bobbitt didn't vote to vacate. I find that
she was out on a date she was at a theater.
Every 15-year-old's fantasy.
I want to know that. Apparently, it was cannabis.
It was cannabis.
Yeah.
It wasn't like she's a smoker and she quit and she's vaping.
No.
Oh, that's nice.
Is it?
Family values. Yeah. Rifle Colorado family values.
Because just dropping $150 per ticket to see a Broadway play and some asshole behind you smoking weed and giving her boyfriend a hand job.
Don't forget the tit grabbing.
Yeah, that was in looking at that, just like I said, it's every 14-year-old boy's dream.
Lauren Boebert vaping and giving you a hand job in a theater.
After a couple
I don't know what kind of dreams you had, Scott, but you were a different 14-year-old than I was.
No, Shannon Wheeler did a great cartoon the other day. He's a New Yorker cartoonist for your audience, if you don't know, and he's a very good friend of Ted's and mine, and he lives up in Portland, and he had a bunch of people screaming and running out of a theater, and it was somebody screaming, "Don't scream, Lauren Boebert," in a crowded theater,
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But getting back to the point, I didn't see them vote to vacate the seat. So it's kind of a weird, there's 8 Republicans and many of whom, because they're congressmen, who gives a shit. I don't know who many of them were. So going forward, the Donald Trump and the MAGA people, who, by the way, irony is completely and utterly lost on them, apparently, because they got McCarthy kicked out because he had the temerity to compromise or work with the Democrats. And of course, they compromised to work with the Democrats to get McCarthy out. So,
right. That's true.
Irony is either dead or just unrecognizable in this great country of ours now.
Well, let's talk about the Democrats. Why did the Democrats? I expected that the Democrats might just vote present and not weigh in on this matter and just portray it as an internal squabble. But I guess what I've read is that they were so angry that McCarthy claimed that they were responsible for dysfunction. He went on one of the Sunday morning talk shows and blamed Democrats for the state of the House. And they were like, fuck him. We worked with him. This is a step too far. We're not pulling his bacon out of the fire.
Yeah, but that's not the first time. I mean, he's been a kind of a rabid partisan, and they didn't like him. I mean, they saw a chance to fuck him.
It's not only that he's a rabid partisan, but he, here's a guy who, I don't know if it was on January 6th, but I think it was, where he got on the House floor and basically excoriated Trump, and then days later is down in Mar-a-Lago trying to make up with him. And so, I mean, that's, I think, what the Democrats don't respond to at all, is he'll go into meetings and, he'll say things to the president and the negotiating team on their side, and, and then he doesn't follow through, or he lies or whatever. I mean, they have the same complaint about him that their own caucus had, or the small part of the caucus had. And I'm sure that there's any number of members on the, I hesitate to call, the other 214 or whatever, 213 Republicans normal. I mean, you've got a significant number of people. Well, you've got the Freedom Caucus is about 90 people, and you can't deal with them. I said, imagine a crazy part of the Freedom Caucus,
right?
Right.
The subset,
right? We all miss Jerry Ford.
Oh, do you remember the weekly the Minority Response? They used to film this. It was adorable. I don't know who aired it, but it was Jerry Ford, and who was the minority leader of the Senate?
It was it was
back in the 60s.
Dirksen and Charlie Halleck, who was the House minority leader in the 60s. It was called the Evan Charlie Show.
Okay, I think it was Halleck who was on this, because it was a weekly. And I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure who aired it, but yeah, Jerry Ford would be, and they'd say what terrible things the Democrats pushed that. But the Democrats had super majorities in both the House and the Senate.
It was on the Dumont Network.
Who can forget?
Yeah, right.
God.
We're old. We made a Do Not Network joke.
Yes, always a hit with the kids. So going forward, it's Jordan and Scalise. I haven't heard any other names other than Trump being floated out there. So it's going to be between those two. Jim Jordan, I wish someone would just buy him a fucking jacket, though. He never wears a goddamn suit jacket. He always takes it off. So he's just wearing his shirt. I mean, it's
well,
ridiculous.
It does get hot in Washington, D.C. I could only wear linen suits if I worked in that chamber.
You would totally rock a linen suit.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
But you'd have to get that Foghorn Leghorn accent going.
1995. Yeah. Yep.
Well, I declare, this will not stand, sir.
I could just dress, like Tom Wolfe, just white suit.
Why don't we go down? We can go down to Saks and get matching white linen suits for tonight for the party.
I like it.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, jeez.
With the walking stick with the the snake head on the top and the straw boaters. I don't know what you swine Jack and Tedder.
Exactly. Awesome B. Clyban reference there.
So what happens? I mean, I'm trying to unpack this. I mean, the people that this is, the whole thing's coming unraveled. Well, it can only stay unraveled for so long in a very practical way. This has to be re-raveled. And so it's going to be Jim Jordan or Scalise. Scalise has the added advantage that
isn't he? Isn't
what?
Scalise?
He's in chemotherapy.
Yeah, Scalise has cancer, right?
Well, plus he took a bullet at the softball game, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So
but
he's not
listen. No. Look, look who we have as the presidential nominee.
By the way, who says Bernie Sanders people never do anything?
Yeah. God, too soon, Ted. Too soon.
But he's probably too. I mean, look, it's a big job. It requires some vigor, which I think, especially with the talking point about President Biden being old and decrepit, that would be a bad look. But then Jim Jordan is, he's the head of the Judiciary Committee, right? I mean, he's very, very busy himself. So I mean, it's kind of like he would have to step down from that post.
Yes,
find someone new. I mean, but I think that's just. It sounds like it's going to be Jordan if they can get their caucus together. It
sounds like it, but he's got that Adderall, snorting vibe going. He's got that weird, like manic energy. I mean, I don't know that, and this counts for something, but photogenically, he's just a bad visual for that party.
Don't forget, Tip O'Neill was Speaker of the House.
I love Tip O'Neill, man. That guy he was great to draw, though.
Floating nose.
Oh yeah, he had a drink or two.
Yeah, every hour.
9.
It was when he was right. It was 5 o'clock somewhere. That's not a lie. That's not wrong. Anyway, so Jim Jordan. Okay, why don't we put out? You want to make the prediction, guys?
Well, the problem is, I think Jim Jordan, in a normal situation, Jordan would just get it. But it's not a normal situation. The Freedom Caucus has to be bought off. Otherwise, there ain't no Jim Jordan. There ain't no speaker.
How does that?
Well, Matt Gaetz has said that he likes Jim Jordan, but that's Matt Gaetz. I mean, that's not everybody. I mean,
but then the Freedom Forum
will the caucus come together around Jim Jordan?
He's going to have to guarantee them that the one vote rule to vacate the seat is going to stay in place.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everyone else is talking about, is that whoever comes in is going to have to get rid of that rule. I go, no, they don't. They're going to have to compromise, as you mentioned, with the Freedom Caucus, and they're going to insist that stay in place.
There's an interesting article in the New Republic that just posted yesterday about the possibility of Hakeem Jeffries becoming speaker, where some of the, swing district, Biden district Republicans could just say, you know what, this is such a bad look for us. We're going to roll with this and see how 24 shakes out. And maybe they keep their seats that way. But I mean, can you imagine Jim Jordan, as Speaker of the House, third in line in presidential succession?
Oh, Jesus,
and I mean, think of the commercials. This guy is one of the nutbags,
Yeah.
And also, there's a reason they call him Jim Jordan, GYM Jim Jordan. And, he's been accused of knowing about, pedophilia in the wrestling program that he helped coach.
Oh boy.
In a college in Ohio. And so, and that's the cherry on top of the chaos cake that got baked this week. And so it's just one negative ad after another. I mean, they're doing, a walking live anti-Republican commercial every day,
right. But I'm going to jump in and say that there are a lot of people in MAGA Nation, and I have a family member, and my jaw dropped. That is his favorite politician right now. And this person is not stupid. He's old, but he's not stupid. But he loves Jim Jordan. I think Jim Jordan will resonate with MAGA Nation in a big, big, big way. And that's a big majority. That's a large segment, obviously.
Well, Jack Nicholson resonated in the mental hospital too, and I mean, that's kind of where we're at here, which is the inmates are running the asylum. And, in a small number of the inmates, that's the thing. I mean, you're really down to 8 people determining, control of the, leadership of the House. And at the end of the day, these guys, they're going to make Hakeem Jeffries speaker, to the tune of not close either. You could see where they could get up to 240 seats again, and then they're out.
What about isn't this in a sense about as close as the American two-party system has gotten to a parliamentary system, like in Israel, where a small party can tie up the entire chamber in knots, or can prevent a prime minister from forming a government? I mean, it does feel a lot like that, and we don't normally see. I mean, in this country, we really go by majoritarian rule, even though the Constitution teaches us that it's there to respect minority rights. But isn't this kind of a great civics lesson that, if you really one, or in this case, 8 people can make a huge difference. I mean, maybe not for the better, but they can make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes me kind of happy. Going off on that note, could there be a Democrat elected to the speakership? That is to say, could you get the Democrat? Because what is it? What's the difference now? 5 votes?
5.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 votes. So you could have the Democrats say, we want this guy. And, you only have to get a handful of Republicans to vote for you. Of course, they'd be signing their own death warrant within the party.
Okay, hey, normal, sane, moderate Republican X, you'll be chairman of judiciary, or normal, sane, you'll get Ways and Means, but here's how it's going down. I think it's plausible now, with a margin of 4.
Is it likely?
It's Washington in 2023, I mean, anything can happen, but it's plausible. Plausible is not nothing,
What about a different Democrat? I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is not really a progressive in any kind of sense. He's more of a corporatist. But could there be a more right-wing Democrat who might be more palatable for those purple district crossover Republican prospects?
I don't see where that person arises out of their leadership team, honestly. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the Republicans probably are way more comfortable with Hakeem Jeffries as speaker compared to Speaker Pelosi, for example, because Speaker Pelosi is
she could come back.
She's done
the job.
But there's a lot of cross currents in that caucus too. I mean, when Ted brought up, this kind of Israeli Knesset kind of scenario where, you really got probably, 6-7 parties in the Knesset. I'm not an expert on it, but you really functionally have the progressive Democrats, the Jayapal Hall Democrats. You've got the Blue Dog type Democrats. You have the Problem Solver Caucus, which is rather plausible, or powerful in the Congress. And then you have the kind of Main Street Republicans who, there's 100 and some of those, and then the Freedom Caucus, which is 90, and then you have the mentally ill caucus of 8. So that's 6, right, or something.
Yeah.
Well, my prediction is they're going to pick Jordan or Scalise, one of those two, obviously.
Well, Scalise can govern. Scalise can govern. He's a
Yes,
professional.
he understands the function of that office. Ted has brought this up numerous times. It's there's a lot of minutia. There's a lot of just boring, like, scheduling, and you have to be a good time manager and all that stuff, which makes you think that an ideologue would not do as well. But
that's not Trump.
Well, you could see Patrick McHenry keeping it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that as a compromise, saying, hey, listen, until the next election cycle, this guy is a placeholder, and he, is perfectly happy with that. And wasn't who was the from
Kevin Hurd is also a major name that's come up in the last couple of days, and he's in charge of that. He's Oklahoma. He's head of this.
Oh, right.
Like our Republican study group. I think, I'm not sure the exact title of the caucus, but it's going to be one of them. Yeah. I mean, if it's not Jordan, they can govern. Jim Jordan and Joe Biden in the same room with Chuck Schumer. Come on. I mean, he's leading the impeachment inquiry.
Yeah.
He wouldn't, though.
But he was.
That's true.
I mean, he's the impetus for it. And he's Trump's guy.
Yeah, and he's the kind of guy who won't show up for meetings. So you won't have that moment anyway, because he just won't show up. Governing is not what they want. Last thought, and you get so much, you guys think the chaos agents now that seem to be there is no plan. There's no okay, after we catch the car, the dog is going to what? That seems to me, why this love of chaos by the MAGA nation and those types? Why? Other than chaos seems to be its own point now.
Well, I'll tell you what the dog is going to do. The dog is Gates, and the dog is going to run for governor of Florida in 26. And I've seen polls where he's up 30, 40 points in that primary field, and he will be the governor of Florida, highly likely. Unless, DeSantis is obviously less popular in Florida than he was a year ago, and with the Disney thing. And
isn't he term limited though? Also,
I don't know that, but I think you're right. He was reelected, right?
Yeah.
And so, but you could see, what if there's a Democrat they can come up with, who could, and Trump is the nominee, right? And it's a catastrophic failure, chaos theory collapse, which is looking increasingly likely. That's why they're sticking with Biden. I think if they really thought they were going to lose with Biden, or that there was a good chance they would lose with Biden, he'd drop out.
Really? But he's the 9th most popular Democratic politician in America. Polls have shown that he's running even. There's one outlying poll that shows him 10 points ahead. Trump 10 points ahead. I think clearly Biden could lose to Trump.
Can I take a break to cough and then, excuse me?
Yeah, hold on, folks. We're going to pause for just a moment. We're back. Just like that. So you're saying about the chaos agents.
Well, how do you placate them? And so Gates wants to be governor of Florida, and so therefore he wants to run for president, in 32 or something like that. And, you can't negotiate with terrorists. They're terrorists. And so they don't care what happens. They don't care how they govern or if they govern. They want to burn it down, baby. They don't like government, and this is the way they think that they can bring it down. So meanwhile, back at the ranch, we were talking about Ukraine, and, what happens if somehow they can't come to a consensus in the House and to have a functioning governing majority, and then we can't get funding for Ukraine, and then wow, Putin wins. Putin takes over Ukraine, or Ukraine gives up significant portions of Ukraine, which is more likely.
Well, actually, Jack, we're going to talk about that in the next segment.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Well, let me talk a little bit about chaos. I'm coming at this obviously from the opposite side ideologically, But I think there's a lot of appeal for anyone who feels ideologically locked out of any existing system, and they don't see any way in to have their ideas recognized, whether they're left, middle, or right. You can easily arrive at the conclusion that you would be better off breaking the system entirely, because that system is not doing anything for you or including you in a meaningful way. So therefore, I could see myself endorsing sort of a chaotic system that caused the breakdown of the existing order, because it's almost like you're shuffling the deck. Now, what you might like, from a left-wing perspective, let's say you have a revolution. Okay, you could end up with a counter-revolution. You can end up, you overthrow, you kill Louis XVI, you end up with Napoleon. Things can go bad, but there is no world, if you didn't do that revolution, where you'd ever end up with anything other than just another king or queen, right? In the French system, a king. So I think it's just, I think these far right Freedom Caucus crazies like Matt Gaetz, they believe, and their followers believe, that breaking the system is necessary for them to have a shot at the kind of change that they want to see.
Ted is rather an expert on Vichy France, if I'm not mistaken. And I think what the Chaos Caucus sees is the GOP governing part of the House as Vichy France. They're making compromises, they're collaborators, they need to be destroyed, they're taking the corporate money, and for some reason, they're not part of that game. They're all about small donors. They don't want the K Street dictating a stable, for well or ill functioning governing majority in the United States. And so you really can't argue with revolutionaries. They're gonna revolutionary, and that's their game. And so I don't see how you compromise with them. And that's why I think you could see where it would get so bad over the next couple of weeks, where they would say, you know what, we got to get a CR through here, and we got to fund Ukraine. And I could see a number of Republicans who are in those swing districts saying, you know what, screw it.
I could see that too.
You mean not running, or?
No, that they would support a Democrat for speaker.
I see. Okay. All
under
right.
some power sharing, quote unquote, agreement.
Yeah, it would be like cohabitation. That's what they call it in France.
It's like you guys on a show,
it's
cohabitating.
It's like in France, they called it that when there was a left wing. I think it was Mitterrand and Chirac, the prime minister and the president, were of rival political parties and different orientations. I called 1994 that, because it was kind of like a co-presidency with Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton for a year or so after the 1995, after the 1994 midterms.
Okay, on that note, we're going to shut down this segment. We're going to be back and talk briefly about Ukraine, and then the third segment about cartooning. So you're going to want to stick around. You're listening to the DMZ America podcast. I'm Scott Stantis, coming to you from the right.
Ted Rall coming to you from the left.
And Jack Ohman coming to us from
a California golf course.
We'll be right back.
Maybe.